Yay! We are back to what's new in Intune, and we've been on summer vacation, every one of us, and finally back. And Peter, did you have a good summer vacation?
I did. I did. It always feels short, especially if you know how long Nikolai has been away. But besides that, I'm totally refreshed.
Very
Yeah, I
good.
think
And
that's one of. Honestly, I mean, I've been away for almost 6 weeks, and it's a long time, right? I mean, I used to feel back in the day when I had those vacations for the first time. Wow, I'm gonna forget about everything that I've learned in the past, I don't know, 6 months or something, right? And you do that the first week when you get back. It's like boom, just you cap your head off or something. I don't know, but then it always slowly comes back, right? But yeah, we have long vacations in Sweden for sure.
Lucky
lovely.
bastard.
Yep.
Very lucky. Yeah. And I was the lucky bastard actually have a visit from Nikolai. He was in Denmark and came by our house, and so that was lovely. Thank you
It
for
was
the
really lovely to see your house for
yeah.
once and to experience that. So next we are coming for you, Peter. So get prepared.
Ooh, I can't wait. Yeah. So you actually know now the room that Matthias is sitting in and doing his stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's not cleaned up over here. He knows.
I was trying to be polite and not mention that, but that's fine.
All right. All
You
right.
have kids, I have kids. Everybody knows how.
Let's cut through the crap and let's go on to it. So it's been summer, and we of course need to look into the service releases that has been while we were away, 2407, 2408. And Peter, aren't we going to start looking by some general things like organizational messages?
Awesome. Yeah, are you actually familiar with the organizational messages functionality that was available within Intune? Did you actually ever look at that?
We have tried it out, and honestly, I couldn't get it to work really. It was really intermittent if I saw a message or not, or really.
Yeah, you really notice the window that they take out for sending those messages. So it's not instant. It can just take up to 24 hours or something like that.
But I recall something about like Spotlight was required, right?
Yeah.
Some certain configurations, and we turn them off. We don't really want them, so that was a bummer for us, I think.
Yeah. Well, the cool part is that they're actually working on expanding that. So from that perspective, Microsoft started with taking it actually out of Intune and bringing it to the Microsoft 365 portal. So for a really quick overview, now they actually moved it to, well, the report section within Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And here you actually still have most of the functionalities that you also had within Intune. Just the scope is broader than it used to be. So if we do create message, then it's actually going to load. And as you can see, you have a lot more different objectives that you can now achieve by using organizational messages, where it initially was really focused on device onboarding and technical stuff related to your workplace. It's now a lot broader across the Microsoft 365 platform in basically at all. So in the basics, you still have the same requirements. So you still have to configure some stuff in Intune to actually make it technically work. But from a template perspective and everything around sending the messages, it's now all within Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So that's the main change. And besides that, you can now send urgent messages that, well, are not completely direct, but are quicker than they used to be.
So do we know if it's still the same kind of configuration or requirements that we need to put in from Intune's perspective?
Yeah.
Spotlight and all those things?
Yeah, nothing changed from that perspective. So from a technical perspective, locally on Windows, everything is the same. It's just from a management perspective, everything moved to Microsoft 365 Admin Center.
So basically, if you disable consumer features,
you're going to have a challenge.
Gotcha. I think that's a bit shame. I like this change though. This is it feels much more kind of integrated from the organizational perspective, right? Because it's potentially not necessarily Intune administrators or that kind of thing that would craft these things or manage or administer them, right?
Yeah, this makes it more usable across the whole organization. So you can actually use it for adoption, and not only adoption of your workplace, but adoption of your whole platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that they moved it to here.
Absolutely. Cool. Let's dive further into some other enhancements. This more specific to Intune, and multi-administrative approval has gotten some updates over the summer period. What do you think about that, Matthias? Are they good?
Well, the more the better we get in that area, I think is good. It's been very small things we could do.
It's been very small iterations of enhancements, right? I mean, I'm still looking for like groups, exclusions, so that you can always ensure that you have one kind of break the glass administrative account that can always bypass these policies for whatever extreme scenarios you could come up with. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm all for change, right? I mean, if it's a good one, it's always good.
Yeah. And well, what is there to say? Well, the new things about the multi-administrative approval is that now we can then say if we want to have approval for a Windows app or a non-Windows app, meaning all the other platforms. So it's not very much that we've gotten out of it. It's just more of a little small adjustment. So we don't get all apps, but now we simply can switch and choose between those two, and or have both the toggles enabled.
Do you have it available in the portal so we can just quickly look at the enhancements that has been added?
Yes, I would love to show it. My device would like to reboot right in the middle of me preparing for the demo.
For real?
Yes.
How are your Windows for business policies working out for you?
No. That's not the thing. I'm gonna show you why it's doing that, but not now. You can share my screen.
Now I can share it, and I will do so.
All right. So that reboot prompt came very, very unfortunate for the demo, of course. But if we go to the tenant administration, and we then go down here to the multi-admin approval, we can go to access policies and create an access policy here. Multi-approval access, MMA, MAA, and then we can choose between script and app. And here you can have both Windows only or non-Windows only. So if we have a non-Windows only, it's applying to Android, Enterprise, and the device admin, iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. So I can toggle that off, and then it only is for those non-Windows devices. I can toggle this one off, and then it only applies to Windows applications.
But that wording is kind of funny, isn't it? Windows only versus non-Windows only. Okay, but that could be just me.
I don't know what to say about this, to be honest. We were talking about this a little bit before, and what happened to, like, okay, I'll say it anyway. What happened to, being consistent in a way where you would apply a policy, let's say, by platform, right? For Windows or for iOS or for macOS, right? This basically now limits me to not being able to have specific macOS configurations in our attempt to move away from a certain vendor to Intune, right? Potentially, if we wanted to introduce this feature, because then we would have the same kind of policy type for all other non-Windows platforms. No. I would like to, just flag this. This is not an enterprise way or kind of way of dealing with exclusions or inclusions or those kind of things, or separations, right? Or delegation of duties or anything like that. This is wrong, I'll be honest. So I hope this is going to change in the future, and let's call this out if possible.
I would like to say that there is room for improvement.
You are the diplomat here. I like that, Peter. It's good that we have someone in the house that can say it in nice words. No, but again, it's cool that it's that there's new stuff being added, but I feel that this was implemented or thought about the wrong way. Or perhaps there were a lot of customer demands. We don't know that. We just want to do Windows only. We don't want to touch everything else. Well, that's fine. But there are also customers that do have Mac OS, Windows, iOS, and different teams working with them with different requirements.
No, they are not. Yeah.
Oh, you're so special.
Don't know if that's the best compliment that you can get.
Before we start throwing things virtually around here. And let's jump into the next part, which is going to be around the operating system version filter property that can now have some new comparison operators. Peter, could you just enlighten us here?
Yeah, actually.
Or what is it?
Well, we actually got 2 additional properties when we're creating filters. So if we're creating a new filter and we're selecting Windows, and if you want to create your rules, you will notice that there are now actually 2 additional properties. So this is the one related to the operating system version. So you can just basically check what the specific version of the operating system has to be. And if I'm then talking a little bit in front already, the other one that we got additionally is the cpuArchitecture. So we can actually check or filter on the architecture of the CPU that's actually within that device. So that gives you an easier way to differentiate between the platforms, or at least the architecture of those devices.
That is really cute with all the Copilot Plus kind of devices that's coming up, but also if you're starting to manage Mac OS devices, right, with different chipsets in there.
I actually don't know if it's Windows only or Mac OS only. I mean a combination. I do know that it's especially here within Windows, you can make the differentiation indeed between AMD, ARM, and the x86. But I'm actually not quite sure if you can also do the same for macOS. But the easiest way to figure that one out, of course, is by just trying.
Let's give it a try.
Yeah, so this is just a real-time check. And both are also available. So yeah.
Nice.
And as you can see,
cool.
Yeah. So this indeed gives you a little bit more feeling with the architecture that you're working with, and especially provides you with some capabilities to differentiate between those platforms, especially from a configuration perspective, of course. So that's basically it. It's 2 little changes to the filtering, but 2 really useful changes, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. More power to filters. That's what I've always said. Cool.
And there's a little comment also to the OS version that is going to be deprecated. So once this new filter is out of preview, the OS version will be locked.
Gotcha. So the old version or the old attribute that you could select, that's going away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's a good comment, because then everybody should go and look through their filters to make sure whenever that announcement comes. We will definitely cover it in one of the upcoming videos for sure, but always it's a good recommendation to always read these what's new, right? Exactly like we are doing prior to recording these videos, to stay ahead and understand what's changing and whatnot, because you don't want to end up in a situation where your filters stop working. That would be terrible. But yes, we should talk about Copilot in a bit.
Copilot.
Something about the device query feature now using Kusto Query Language.
Yeah, so Copilot is here, and there's lots of connectors going back and forth. And I recently also got a video demo from Microsoft on all the different connectors and how it goes together, and it's actually quite nice. I was actually impressed. And with everything, you can build, make some flows of prompts, etc., etc. I think that is becoming more and more useful. But in this particular area, what we'll be able to do, if you share my screen, we would be able to, well, first of all, we need to set up the Copilot, so Intune can use it. It's very straightforward. It can be a bit expensive, but because it's per hour spent, there's an SCU in the backend that will be used to be prompted. But once you have that enabled, you can go to your current devices, and if you're the lucky person with a Intune suite as well, you can then use the Copilot feature together with the device query, meaning that device query is Intune's answer on cmpivot that we had in Config Manager. It's part of the Intune Suite license and can query the device in live action. So if you are troubleshooting or you need some information here and now, and not the 8-hour late response or whatever you have in there, that is definitely the way to go. And right now you can then explore that with the Copilot feature. So if you prompt information and you're looking for some data that needs to be fresh, it can certainly use that device query and get you information from the client, which is, by the way,
I really like the last one at the bottom. Show the primary user of this device. If you just click the X at the bottom or at the top, you will see the primary user of that device, right?
Oh,
right.
But I could prompt as well,
you know. Definitely more information and such. I mean, but it's a little bit funny. I mean, it's early stages, right? I mean, it at some point it will grow exponentially, and we will.
But the good thing about the prompt,
working through that part anyway.
Yeah, but you know, the good thing about the prompt is that once you get into a conversation with Copilot and you ask about the primary user, you then go to the next question, because now you're in a flow of communication, so it better understand where you're going. So that could be a legal question.
It's a starting point to get some information on what you're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. Cool. Good stuff. And the last part that is on the sort of general topic of changes over the summer is updates to the discovered apps report. Do you know what that is about, Peter? Is that the additional columns with publisher information?
Yes, it definitely is. So if we're going into the monitor section and we go to the discovered apps within here, before there used to be 4 columns, but as you can see right here, we have a new column. It's not per se new information, because we used to have this information already when we did an export. But the thing that is new is that we can now actually have it in one overview. Just wonder if the data is always really usable, especially if you eventually get into the store apps that are by default installed on a device. It would be really cool, and especially really useful as we get some filtering information right in here. So we can actually filter out some of those default apps to get the reports a little bit less noisy. But at least the thing that this is actually all about is this specific column. So you get the publisher information directly within the same report that you already know around the discovered apps.
Yeah. And like we were discussing before, I mean, while this is a great enhancement, we feel that this really must move into the new reporting framework at this point.
Exactly.
Honestly, this report needs so much revamp and love and care to be actually useful in an enterprise state. It's so much easier to just dump over your data to another external system and go by there. I know we are doing it. I know someone else are doing the same thing. So please, Microsoft, consider moving this sort of application inventory to a reporting framework where compliance and everything else, Windows updates, live today.
That would be lovely.
Yes, please. And on that note, it's time for some endpoint security, the Matthias' favorite topic stuff. And I forgot to actually add those names in, so let's just say Matthias covers everything.
I'm gonna sit back and relax.
No, I think we can cover many of these together.
No, but you can go ahead and share, because this is actually one of my favorite topics. So
I think
you're not wrong.
The Windows platform name change for endpoint security policies. Finally.
Well, it's more of a consolidation, I would say, because when you went into the endpoint security space and you went into, for example, attack surface reduction, we knew, and we have got through all of this in prior versions of what's new in Intune. But once we create that policy, what we see now is Windows Config Manager Windows. So before, there was a lot of categories here, and it was really, really hard to find what you actually wanted. And just to have a look back, and that's the good thing about making video, isn't it? I actually looked it up, and you can actually see the platform here. It's Windows 10, Windows 11, and Windows Server. And it's like, yeah, but
Windows.
Okay, Windows. So if you have a config manager environment, now that's with the tenant attach, you're going to choose the first one. If you don't have tenant attach, you're going to use the second one. So easiness, consolidation, that's nice. That's what it's all about.
Is it because we have been mentioning it so many times in many different videos that we really feel that, or maybe I, or both of us at least, from the beginning, said that this needs to be simplified? Well, maybe. Well, let's continue to voice our feedback then, because apparently changes are happening, right?
Yeah,
which is cool. Awesome. Exactly. But there's also more stuff going on, right, Matthias? There's additional consolidation of Intune profiles.
Absolutely. And this is just the same kind of thing, because before you had, under this one, you also had the credential guard. So now they just moved the credential guard into the same kind of account protection, and together with the Windows Hello, it's now all in one place. So again, consolidation and making it easy for the user to choose and go the right place.
And actually unifying also the profiles. So they actually made it now into only 2 profiles that are left related to identity protection. One is this specific one, and the other one is still within the template configuration that you can still choose identity protection or something like that. So it's now either of those 2 are related to identity stuff, and besides that, it should not be there anymore. Besides for the settings catalog, of course, but so that should make our life a lot easier.
Yep.
I think the keyword for the summer has been consolidation, right? Perhaps?
Lovely summer.
Lovely summer. Mm-hmm. Let's consolidate the summer. Cool, good. And while on the topic, we also have some EPM enhancements. And this I've seen a lot of commercial stuff. No, not commercial. What's the word? Commerce. And just a a lot of voice on social media is what I'm trying to say around this change and or new feature, which is cool. So it feels like it's definitely been warm welcomed by the community, for sure.
Absolutely, and EPM is one of the hot topics from Microsoft as well, along with Copilot and all the other things that is within the Intune suite. So again, we have with a product that you have to purchase outside of the core products of Intune, but for this one you can buy the specific add-on and get along with it. But for this particular case that has been added into the product is something we've really did some feedback on is that while we gather all the logs of types that are unmanaged or even doesn't have a rule, but we are now able to go into the report and see exactly what it is. And before this new feature came along, we had to either grab the hash and do a rule ourselves. But the feedback really went to, you have all the data. Why do we need to do all that manual work? And we don't do that anymore, because now we can either go to the reports and we create a new policy on that specific rule we want to create here, or we can add it to one existing rule. So if I saw this, I knew this was a help desk user, I would then say, add this to my existing rule, and I want to have this as a user confirmed, and then the last part is just how do you want to have the child processes behavior of this, and well, maybe you want to deny that, so only the core process is going to be run. So now I actually added in a new rule, and it feels so good that it is so easy to work with the new elevation rules, and we can then add in rules. Now the only thing we miss is that if we have a lot of rules in there that is somewhat deprecated or not even used on any device any longer, that would be nice to have some kind of report saying, last time you used these rules was 365 days ago. You might want to go in there and delete it. So you can also clean up in your rules. Otherwise, I foresee that we're going to have a lot of technical debt, and it's going to be way too crowded in our policy stack.
No, you think so? You should look at our EPM software. It has a lot of technical debt, so I totally understand what you're saying. That's some really good feedback. And maybe that's next. Who knows? We'll see. Cool, good. Thank you, Matthias, for these presentations on your favorite topic. But there's still a few, or at least one that we need to talk about, because in our previous video, Peter, you demoed some Cloud PKI stuff, and we talked about the capability of being able to delete a PKI in the Intune suite. And I think we can do that now, right?
You are totally correct, Nikolai. If we go now to Cloud PKI, and as you can see, I still have all the PKIs that I created before. But one of the cool parts is, and I'm actually just going to try it live at this moment. And, of course, we have a delete button, but it is grayed out. Maybe I have to pause it first. But I did see that as soon as I go to a root CA, that one does have a delete button directly. So it seems to work like a charm. So as we mentioned earlier, that in a previous video also, we used to be able to do something like this via the graph, but that would give failures because eventually they closed it up, so you couldn't do that. But now we have this button, and as you could see during my talk, there was a fantastic failure, which could make sense as I'm trying to delete a root CA that is connected to a issuing CA. So
yeah, it makes sense.
From that perspective, it makes sense, but it would be awesome if there was a little bit more detail in that error message. But as we paused this specific one, Oh, it's not pausing yet. But at least this is the idea, that we have the delete button now, and we can use that delete button to actually start deleting environments.
I think third time is the charm. So in next video, we will cover this again. See if it works.
Eventually, it should work a time. So yeah.
I assume there's something more to it if we were to read into the docs or something that you need to do this and that first wait 10 minutes for it to pause and spin down all the resources in the back end or something weird.
That could very well be possible. Yeah. But at least the main thing is we have a delete button. We don't have to call support anymore to perform the delete action, unless, of course, it keeps on erroring. But I assume that that is more something on my side than on the Microsoft side.
Reasonable. Yeah, cool. Let's switch into our Windows section, more specifically on what's new on the Windows management side of things with these 2 updates, right? And the first one with CS is going to be about corporate device identifiers.
It's perfect.
Does it work now, or what's what's the news?
Oh, well, it's at least some of us have it in our tenant. So
yeah, well, some of us look in the right place. I'll agree to that.
But yes, we do. I have not tested very much on AD. I must be honest, because yeah.
So should we just go over again so everybody knows? Sorry, where this is.
AD. Okay, so we have the autopilot. Some refer to it as a V1 solution, the current one that we have user provisioning, we have self-provisioning, we have kiosk, all that, what we use today, where we add a hash to a autopilot table, and then it knows about our device, so we can ensure that we have a corporate identifier or something that actually can discover this device. Now the Intune team has created a new set of policies that is not called Autopilot V2, but it is called Autopilot Deployment. So at least device preparation, right? Cool. And it's just much faster than the existing Autopilot, and it's very nice. But for it to be working, we've had to go into the device restrictions and open up for the personal devices, and that's not what we want to do. We want to have somewhere where we can actually register our device, so it knows that this is a corporate device, and not everyone will be able to enroll if they are in a certain targeted policy. So if we go to devices and into enrollment, we can now go to the corporate device identifier, and we can enter manually or we can upload to CSV. But for Windows devices, we need to do the upload because serial number is not going to cover it. For Windows devices, we need the manufacturer, the model, and the serial number. So how do we get that? Well, we can run a simple script that will go into the computer system and get the manufacturer, model, and serial number, and then give you a CSP or CSV for that.
Could you just make that a little bit larger, Matthias, if people want to actually look at the recording?
Yeah, so I can't do this window bigger, but down here you can see it. And then once we've exported that, we can grab that information, not the EMI. We need to grab this one and get to the device identifier and actually add that to the Intune database. And that's how it's going to know that this particular device is a corporate device, and will let you through when it needs to enroll with a enrollment restriction that says personal is blocked. And you will have this very, very, very nice little identifier here with the manufacturer, model, and serial number. So yeah, that's easy. And let's see how we can solve that in an automatic way when we want to migrate away from what we have with device hashes in in Autopilot and into this model.
I have a feeling that Oliver Kieselbach, who created this amazing, what was it called, Autopilot Manager or something, is probably working on an update. I don't know. It's just my guess, but I mean, it would make sense for such a solution to also incorporate this kind of thing. Cool. Well, glad that it works, at least if you find it out, if you can figure it out. I was actually looking at enter it manually. I couldn't see it. I should read the docs more often.
Or not.
Or not, perhaps. Or just try it out. Click around. That's always an improvement, right? Speaking on improvements, Peter, there has been some changes to the log files of the Intune management extension. I think we have a new log.
Yeah, we have a new log file. But before that, can I go one step back to the CA deletion? Because I fixed it.
You fixed it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's find this banner and share your screen again.
I just had to read the docs. That's the main conclusion. Yeah. So as you can see, I deleted a couple of CAs here already. The issuing CA and the root CA. So the first thing was indeed the order. So before you can delete a root, you first have to delete the issuing. Makes sense. And the issuing, you had to pause it, then revoke it, and then you can delete it. So that's basically it. And after that, you can delete both CAs. And it works like a charm.
Pause, revoke, and delete.
Yep. So that to set everything straight. And then we go to the new log file.
Great.
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's going better and better from that perspective, because I still remember the days wherein we nearly only had the Intune management extension log. That's been a long time. As you can see, in the meantime, we get a lot of additional log files, all with a different purpose. And the main thing that you can see from that perspective is that basically every component is getting their own log file. And the cool part is that the new kid in town is the app workload log file. And as you can see, I'm a huge fan of still using Notepad. I don't know what it is. I think it's from the early days when, I don't know. It just reads nice-ish, I think.
So it's you and Wally then.
And I used to have a lot of colleagues that were just doing an interpretation based on CM trace, and then they were seeing red and yellow lines, and they were directly, there is the problem. Well, 9 out of 10 times it was just jumping on the word error or something, or warning or something like that. Yeah. So I always told everybody, just look in Notepad, don't make those guesses on what the issue is.
An attempt to try and make it easier for you to find the actual error, but there's too much error text being shown there, so you just revert back to not using the tool in Notepad.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically the thing with this new app workload log file is that everything related to your app deployment is now consolidated. There we go again, within this specific log file. So that makes it a lot easier to do troubleshooting and see what's happening based on one log file that contains the related information. Personally, I think this is a huge improvement. Mainly because it just simplifies the troubleshooting a lot, because all the related information is within a single log file, and just scrolling through it.
The Intune management extension log, when you had like health scripts running at the same time, and then the sort of main functionality of the agent was spinning out its refreshing token kind of stuff and all that stuff. You just need to be able to filter out parts of the log and understand this has nothing to do with the even though if it's tagged like Win32 app and stuff. So much better. This is awesome.
It was indeed always a big trouble to see what component is now actually writing that information to the log file.
Yeah.
Well, none of those type of issues anymore, because it's now all consolidated into this one log file. So yeah, easy peasy.
Easy peasy for sure. Great enhancements. Let's Let's talk about some other enhancements or updates to the security baseline for Windows 365, Matthias.
Yes, indeed. And we are live on the Endpoint Security Blade and Security Baselines. And here you get all the latest baselines that Microsoft put into the portal. And in this regard, the Windows 365 Security Baseline. So one funny thing to note here is if you use sys, and I've been using sys, there is some funny behavior in that because it's going to prohibit you from using remote desktop. And I wonder how Windows 365 is connected.
Through a, I don't know, cable?
Through magic. So putting sys on your clients is, you might want to look in this security baseline just to see, is there anything that shouldn't be in my sys baseline so I can actually connect to my Windows 365. So this is
you figure this out by chance or by experience?
Well, I must admit it was experience.
Interesting.
But nevertheless, the good thing about these new security baselines is that they provide it with the settings catalog settings. So it's not the old way of creating the security baseline. So it is the beta behavior when you have conflicting policies. So let's say I took all these default settings that Microsoft added to the security baseline. I click next, next, next. I added it to my clients. Never do that on all your product devices. You will definitely see stuff that is not being tested. The last time, I guess, was something localized. So if you have other languages than English, you will have a ruined experience, right?
Oh my God, yes. That was interesting.
Yes. So please do test this out on a couple of devices and don't ruin the whole of your business. But the great thing here is that when using these new types of policies, it's actually going to show you what conflicting policy it is conflicting with. So you have a chance to actually resolve that. So it's lovely to see, and you can see the baseline just keeps on and keeps on and keeps on. So really good, and we love that Microsoft is taking all the new CSP v2 into actions as well. Yeah,
I think we should stay on this topic with cloud PCs because the next sort of enhancements is around AVD and cloud PCs in terms of clipboard transfer direction settings, which is now available in the settings catalog, right?
Indeed, yes. And that is...
I remember when we set up our Windows 365 environment, our security policy governed to block copy-paste, right? Or clipboard transfers. And I've always been the kind of advocate of, why is it such a hard time, or why is it so taboo to not be able to copy from your source to the destination? I feel that is not something that you're potentially interested in preventing, right? The DOP is from extracting data, right? If you can make that argument, because otherwise you would have to disable internet connection on the device to actually have that kind of argument in a discussion, I think. But these new enhancements makes it so much easier to sort of relive that discussion with security teams that have this kind of idea that this is a DOP protection layer. So I'm really glad that these have shown up so that we can configure them. They provide tremendous value for those scenarios, for sure.
Absolutely.
So go look it out, check it out.
Yes.
And there is something called Windows Enrollment attestation that has been lurking in the back, right, for some time. And now there's a report in public preview.
Yes, there is.
Could you show us, Peter? Because I'm really interested.
Yeah. The only thing is that I don't have any physical devices, so that makes it challenging to actually attest the device. But the report on itself should just at least give information about all the virtual machines that are available within your environment. And the idea of device attestation, and especially during enrollment, is of course an additional security layer. So you can do additional checks on the device based on TPM to see if that device is, well, good enough to actually enroll within your environment. So you do additional checks before enrolling the device within your environments. So that makes it worthy of an additional check. And besides that, you can also just keep a track on the devices that are available within your environment. And the thing that you should read really carefully in the docs are about the non-supported devices. And basically, everything that's virtual is not supported for enrollment attestation. So every virtual machine that you have within your environment can basically not attest with the services. Because the initial or the eventual idea is that you can select a device and then click on attest to actually confirm the attest on that specific device. And then the information around the attestation will also update, and you will get more detailed information about that specific device. So all in all, I really think this is a really valuable information. Also because you can eventually also use a property like that during the enrollment of the device itself. So you can eventually also prevent the enrollment of specific devices. So yeah, that makes it, I think, a really cool feature, and especially from a security perspective, it's maybe even a must in nearly every environment.
Definitely.
Can I just add on here as well?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Nice, because now we get to the funny part where I started out and I wanted to demo, and I was kind of, my device rebooted.
Your screen instead?
So you click the restart button.
I did this.
Yeah.
And this happened.
Yep.
So I was just curious, does it actually reboot my device? And yes, it does. You don't want to take all these devices and then click reboot, because you are going to restart the whole environment.
And then it doesn't matter if it's virtual or physical, or?
Absolutely. This is a virtual device, so you can't do a test. That's not supported, but the reboot or the restart, that is definitely working.
Awesome.
I really like how you're thinking, Matthias. I want to understand if the restart button actually does what it says. Is that your level of trust with Intune on a general notice, or is it more like the curious side of things?
A little of both, maybe. Bird kit.
Interesting. Cool. Well, thank you for that, sharing that with us. Now we know that the restart button actually restarts the device.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yay.
Yeah, we've been on vacation. We have fun. That's what this is all about. But Matthias, on a more serious notes, there are new apps available in the Enterprise App Catalog.
Absolutely.
And I looked through that list of apps. It's getting really long now. There's a lot of good apps in there. So I feel that they've been doing a tremendous work on extending the catalog and making sure that it's covering as much ground as possible from the app's perspective, for sure. Do you have it in your environment so that we can check it out just to see?
Of course I do. Of course. We'll go to apps and Windows, and here in the bottom. You've already seen it if you've been in our series here. So now you might say, well, that's not much apps, but if you scroll down, it's going to load. It's going to load.
So now Matthias is going to scroll until it stops loading, because he's
going to load.
Yes, right.
It's going to load. I'm just testing the graph in behind that everything works as expected. Okay.
Next link.
Now we are there. So as you can see, well, this repository really expanded over the month, right? So this is nice. I think we're really getting somewhere here. So that's lovely. PowerShell Core. I want that. I don't have PowerShell 7 in my environment, so let's get it. Yay. This could not be more easy, right? I just have to make it available and then add the app. And that's it. PowerShell Core 7.4 is available for my end users. And, well, there's a lot of sickness with that, so I wouldn't. But Nikolai, you maybe know more about that.
No, I don't know. I'm just glad that they are adding more apps into this, because I remember from the preview days, it was not a lot of them. So now it definitely makes much more sense to start looking into this for sure, and see how it goes. Cool, good stuff. Thank you. And we are moving into the final section with macOS and iOS and Android updates. Not that much, to be honest. We already covered some filters related attribute additions for macOS that Peter found for us. But the first one, account-driven Apple User Enrollment now generally available for iOS, iPadOS 15 Plus. That's the longest title we've ever had, I think. What's this about, Peter?
It's actually a new enrollment type that we can use for iOS devices, and I thought macOS also. And it's good to know a little bit of background story with that, because one of the main reasons why they actually have to do that is because Apple is changing stuff again. So I don't know if you ever looked at the profile-based user account enrollment or user enrollment.
I recall that I tried it out when I was a consultant when it was really new, but I couldn't really figure out a way or a scenario where any of the customers that I worked with had any value of it, because many of them were purchasing DEP or ADE these times. That was my experience, at least.
It feels a little bit like work profile on Android, but then not that good.
But it's again this bring your own device kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's mainly focused on bring your own devices. And the main difference between Android is that on iOS, you would have that differentiation within the app. So within the app, you would have different storage locations for personal and for corporate. Well, that really confuses the hell out of every user. But they at least stopped with that enrollment method. But something similar in a more enhanced form came back for that. And that's basically the account-driven user enrollment. The configuration requirements are still pretty similar, as in that you still need to have managed Apple IDs, because it basically all starts with a managed Apple ID on the starting point, simply because a managed Apple ID is used to, well, actually see that the user wants to enroll the device with a corporate account. So that makes sense from that perspective. It's just challenging, especially in a demo environment, that's then also directly related to an Apple Business Manager environment. And that's always challenging to get that up and running within a demo environment. So that being said, the basics around that can, of course, be shown as you can just create a profile. You can just call it demo. And once you click on, you will see all the different enrollment profiles that you can use for iOS. And this guy, the account-driven user enrollment, is the new kid in town. What's actually also cool around this is that it also relies on a JIT, just in time. And just in time, just make sure that you don't need the company portal app anymore, and that you can actually directly trigger the enrollment. And to give you a little bit more of a Windows feeling, you can actually trigger that enrollment via the settings app in iOS 18. So it's like Apple is doing a little bit of Windows in there.
That's cool. That's some good enhancement.
That should make us feel a little bit at home, right?
Yes, certainly.
Windows like to be like Apple, and Apple wants to be like Windows.
Yeah.
So instead of calling it account-driven, they could have called it autopilot-driven user enrollment, right? Just to get the Windows feeling in there. No, just kidding.
So eventually it will all be the same. No matter what platform you have, it's all the same.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. And there's a final news that has come, or new feature related to the Android enterprise management options, that you can now use a Microsoft Entra account.
That's actually pretty easy, because I was actually setting it up like this weekend. And the thing is that Google basically made it easier for us. So Google can now integrate with Entra, so you can just sign in with your Entra credentials to actually use a corporate account to set up the connection. And as you can see right here in my demo environment, I actually used my corporate credentials from my demo environment to set up the Manage Google Play account. So that's just a single sign-on, create a connection, and you're basically up and running. There is no need anymore for personal Gmail accounts or something like that. It's all connected now to a corporate email address. Of course, that also brings challenges like which address are you going to use and that kind of stuff. And it has to be mail enabled, and during the configuration, it automatically provides the information of the admin that is logged into Intune. So those things, really, you need to keep that in mind. Like most organizations I've been to don't have mail enabled admin accounts. So keep that in mind when you're setting this up. It is cool, but keep in mind that you're using the right account that you can also use later on. And that's basically it.
Good feedback there. That's really interesting for sure. So make sure to absolutely use the correct account so you can retrieve those notifications whenever there's something that needs to happen, right? Matthias,
can I ask something?
Always.
What happens if you click the disconnect?
Oh, then it will actually disconnect. I've done that like 5 times this weekend, so.
Okay, good.
This happens.
Ugh. Nice.
All those devices unbound. Oh no.
Oh no, help.
One single phone. Boom. Gone.
Boom.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think that wraps up all the news and features that has been covered over the summer break with Intune release 2407 and 2408. Next up is 2409. That should be out soon. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining today. And we will see everyone in the next video in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Take care.